Chapter 6. Discipline is stronger than motivation. One of the biggest lies people believe is that success begins with motivation. They wait to feel inspired. They wait to feel energized. They wait to feel ready. They wait for the perfect mood, the perfect moment, the perfect mindset. And while they wait, nothing changes. Days pass. Weeks pass. Years pass. Dreams remain dreams. Goals remain goals. Potential remains unrealized. The truth is simple. Motivation is unreliable. Discipline is dependable. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline remains. Motivation is an emotion. Discipline is a decision. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is permanent. Motivation asks, do I feel like doing this today? Discipline asks, what needs to be done? And then it gets to work. You do not need motivation. You need standards. Remember that phrase. You do not need motivation. You need standards. Because standards determine behavior when motivation disappears. And motivation always disappears eventually. There will be mornings when you do not feel like getting up. There will be days when you do not feel like working. There will be moments when you do not feel like exercising. There will be times when you do not feel like continuing. That is normal. That is human. The question is not whether those moments will come. The question is what you will do when they arrive. Will you obey your feelings? Or will you obey your standards? That decision determines everything. The most successful people in the world are not successful because they always feel motivated. They are successful because they continue even when motivation is absent. Consider elite athletes. People often imagine that champions wake up every morning excited to train. They imagine constant enthusiasm, constant energy, constant inspiration. Reality is different. Athletes experience fatigue. They experience frustration. They experience boredom. They experience doubt. Yet they continue. They train when they feel good. They train when they feel bad. They train when conditions are perfect. They train when conditions are difficult. Because champions understand something average people often forget. Results come from consistency, not feelings, not moods, not motivation. Consistency. You do not need motivation. You need standards. The athlete who trains only when motivated will eventually fall behind. The athlete who trains because it is their standard will continue improving. That is the difference. The same principle exists in military training. Military organizations do not build effectiveness by relying on motivation. They build effectiveness through discipline. They create standards. They create routines. They create habits. Because they understand that emotions are unpredictable. In difficult situations, people do not rise to the level of their motivation. They fall to the level of their training. Think about that. In difficult situations, people do not rise to the level of their motivation. They fall to the level of their training. That is why discipline matters. Discipline creates reliability. Discipline creates consistency. Discipline creates strength. When pressure arrives, disciplined people know what to do. Not because they feel like doing it. Because they have trained themselves to do it. Business leaders understand this lesson as well. Successful entrepreneurs do not build companies by working only when inspired. If they did, their businesses would collapse. Instead, they develop standards. They show up every day. They solve problems every day. They make decisions every day. They take action every day, whether they feel motivated or not, because success is built by consistent effort, not occasional enthusiasm. Many people fail because they depend entirely on motivation. They begin strong. They feel excited. They feel inspired. They feel unstoppable. But eventually motivation fades. And when it fades, they stop. They stop exercising. They stop studying. They stop building. They stop improving. Not because the goal became impossible, because the feeling disappeared. This is why motivation alone is dangerous. It teaches dependence on emotion. Discipline teaches independence from emotion. Discipline says, do it anyway. Tired, do it anyway. Unmotivated, do it anyway. Discouraged, do it anyway. Afraid, do it anyway. Because discipline understands that action often creates motivation, not the other way around. Many people wait to feel motivated before acting. Disciplined people act first. Then motivation follows. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates motivation. But it all begins with action. Not feelings. Not inspiration. Action. You do not need motivation. You need standards. Imagine two people pursuing the same goal. The first person works only when inspired. The second person works according to a schedule. The first person depends on emotion. The second person depends on commitment. Months later, who has made more progress? The answer is obvious. The disciplined person wins. Not because they are smarter. Not because they are more talented. Not because they have better opportunities. Because they kept going. And progress belongs to those who continue. One of the most powerful things you can do is create non-negotiable standards for yourself. Standards remove debate. Standards remove excuses. Standards remove uncertainty. For example, I exercise 5 days a week. Not when I feel motivated. Not when I feel inspired. 5 days a week. That is the standard. I read every day. That is the standard. I keep my promises. That is the standard. I finish what I start. That is the standard. Standards create identity. And identity drives behavior. When discipline becomes part of who you are, consistency becomes easier. You stop asking whether you should do the work. You simply do it. Because that is who you are. That is your standard. The strongest people are not constantly negotiating with themselves. They are not having endless internal arguments. They have already decided. And decisions create freedom. The decision has been made. The standard exists. The action follows. This is how self-control grows. Not through motivation. Through repetition. Through consistency. Through discipline. Every time you act despite not feeling like it, you become stronger. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you become stronger. Every time you choose standards over emotions, you become stronger. That strength compounds. Day after day. Week after week. Year after year. Until discipline becomes automatic. Until self-control becomes natural. Until excellence becomes a habit. Remember, motivation is a visitor. It arrives unexpectedly. And it leaves unexpectedly. Discipline is a resident. It stays. It remains. It supports you when motivation disappears. That is why discipline always wins in the long run. Motivation creates beginnings. Discipline creates results. Motivation starts the journey. Discipline finishes it. Motivation sparks the fire. Discipline keeps it burning. You do not need motivation. You need standards. As you continue your journey towards self-mastery, stop asking yourself how you feel. Start asking yourself what your standards require. Because feelings change. Standards endure. Emotions fluctuate. Standards remain. Motivation fades. Discipline stays. And the people who build extraordinary lives are not the people who feel motivated every day. They are the people who continue every day, whether they feel like it or not. That is the power of discipline. That is the strength of self-control. And that is why discipline will always be stronger than motivation.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe my channel.